excited about a project that came through our doors the other day. It's actually a theater seat, and it's an Art Deco, it's a vintage Art Deco Hayward Wakefield theater seat. And it's got a couple of interesting features to it. And it's got mahogany arms, which is very unusual today to find anything mahogany. It's got a molded cast iron sides featuring a fleur-de-lis, and it's a very old piece. It's from 1930. Now my client has taken an oak base and attached it to the theater seat where they would have been attached to the floor. So he wants to use it. And we have a beautiful green faux mohair that's going on it. Now what's interesting about this piece is you think it's from 1930 and it's seen all those movies from, you know, The Wizard of Oz to Star Wars. We don't know exactly what theater. We think it's from California that it came out of, but maybe in California, in one of those beautiful Art Deco theaters they had out there. And what's interesting is the fabric. It's a mohair fabric on the back. It's not even ripped, and on the seat is ripped. But imagine all those seats. Thousands of people have sat in this seat, and the fabric has pretty much lasted. So I'm really anxious to get going on and disassembling this and actually showing you, giving you little tips on that. Believe me, I think the process of disassembling is very important. There's a lot of hardware to this, or some hardware to this, and I want to show you, give you some tips on how not to lose hardware and how to take things apart. So come on in over here and join me. Okay, so I'm going to start on the back. It's got some nice brass screws holding the back on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these and I place them down here. And then I am going to show you how to put these back. We're going to tape these back into place so that we don't lose them. It's just a metal bracket. I've never taken one of these apart, so we don't know. Hopefully it goes smooth. Okay. So sometimes in a busy shop, you know, you're putting things down and then you go to something else, or somebody comes in and you get distracted. Putting the screws somewhere else is probably not a good idea, so I really do like to put them back where I find them. And now tape won't leave a residue on most surfaces, but I wouldn't do this on velvet. Now something that I just noticed is that there are more holes here than screws. So we note that. We make a note of that. They didn't have screws over here. So, you know, if the client were to ask, I think the reason for that is that this is metal and they couldn't screw into the metal. So all these things though you note. Some people, the video actually helps. I don't know if you ever want to video yourself at home taking things apart. That might be a good idea too, actually. So I'm going to tape these so they don't go anywhere. And I'm going to put this aside and tackle the next series of screws that are holding the actual wooden back on. Okay, so now I'm going to take these off that are holding the actual wood base on. I'll take this one off, then I'll come over here and grab this one. There's only 4 holding the back on. The other piece was decorative. Probably going to fall right on the seat, so we shouldn't have to worry about it. Okay, now watch what I do. really be careful with these screws. I mean, they're original to the piece. So I put them back. And I'll just tape that around. We don't lose them that way. Okay, let's go to the seat. What's going on with the seat? Let's lift it up. Yeah, the very first thing, actually, before we do that, I don't take any chances. Let's just put a piece of tape on that and right front. That's the front of the seat. You know, it might look, some things do look obvious, but there is a difference between front and back on most pieces. So why take a chance, right? So I'm going to lift this up. And now we have a Phillips head. So I have to change out my screwdriver. Hold on. Go. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is take these Phillips heads that are holding the whole seat on, including the metal bottom. It's interesting how this is put together. Made to last, I'll tell you that. So when you're taking these bolts, screws out, you might want to note, make sure they're all the same size. Sometimes the fronts or the backs are bigger. Just check that out now. Let's just see. They're all the same size. Okay, so remove that. And now, the other thing that you want to note here, before you take the bottom off, okay? So this is especially true on mid-century furniture. To make sure that you always have your front and back when you put it, taking it off, always mark. It's better to be safe than sorry. We're going to mark the front of this. Now if you notice this does have a, I think this is a little bit more curved than this, but it's not obvious. Mark that front. I always say, over-describe, over-mark things, is better than not having any markings at all and you're left guessing, what's the front, what's the back? Okay, so now we're ready to take this off. So for the benefit of the camera, I'm trying to do this. I would normally take this over to a table and take it off, you know, with this flat down, but I just want to show you guys what I'm doing. Now I want you to notice something. There's some screws missing here for some reason. So we want to make sure that I'm going to cover the ones right now that are not there. We want to do it exactly the same way. Isn't that smart? Because I guarantee you put this down, or a customer comes in the door, or the phone rings, and you come back to it even a couple of days later, I don't care how good of a memory you have, you're going to forget things. In museums, they have a much more rigorous labeling system. We have done museum work, and it's really quite extraordinary with the lengths they go through on labeling. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put these back. And tape these down. And we'll see you over at the table. Okay, so let's get going on stripping the old mohair off and So the way I usually like doing this, I try to save as much of the original material as I can. Of course, this is a discussion that you have with your client too. Most clients are very open to that. In other words, instead of changing out to foam and having that your first option, try to work with what you have. So let's, and I have no idea if this is going to be usable or not, what's underneath here, but let's see. The back did look like it was in pretty good shape. But I'm using my tack remover. Seems to be doing a pretty good job. Can you imagine some of these theaters that, you know, 2, 3, 5,000 seats and being the upholsterer that has to do all of them? Sure, they had a team of upholsterers. But if you look at these tacks that I'm taking out, every one of them was spit. And if you've seen some other YouTube videos, I have one myself that shows how to spit tacks. Actually, I think it's the only one out there, but how to spit tacks, but I don't encourage tack spitting. It's something that we used to do. We don't have to do that anymore because we have the pneumatic staple gun. It's not to say I don't use 6-ounce tacks, because I do, but I don't even spit anymore. But they did, and I can tell you that they did, because each one of these has a little bit of rust on it from the saliva of the upholsterer. It's still there. Kind of interesting. This way, I can tell you that it's dirty. Good thing about tacks is they usually come out easier than staple. You know, a staple gun has about 80 to 90 pounds of pressure, I believe, behind it. That's a big hammer. So a tack, I doubt if it's that much. So that's one reason that they come out easy. The other reason is they're only one prong, whereas a staple has 2 prongs. Okay, before I take off the fabric, I'm going to go over this again to make sure that I got most of the tacks out. And just wanted to make a point now. My focus when I'm taking these tacks out is not up here. Most people, when they're hammering, all you guys have been doing this for a while, you do it so naturally you might not even realize that you're not even looking up here where the action is happening. You're looking down here, and the reason you're looking down there is so that you don't want to slip. You don't know what's going on with that tack at all times. So move this here. I can tell you that the wood looks a little dry. I'm smelling it because I actually smell theater, believe it or not. You know, the smell of a theater. It's cool. So, this seat would talk. Okay, so I got all my tacks out. Turn it around and take a look at what we got underneath here. It's horsehair and cotton, which is pretty cool. I mean, I want to try to keep as much of this, but we do need to do some work. Okay, what I'm going to do on this, I'm going to show you, we're going to give you a little preview of what the building stage is. We're not going to build it out today. Just clip the threads holding the horsehair on, okay? I'm going to clip those off. to get at the bottom where the burlap is. And the burlap needs to be replaced, but other than that, I think this is in really fine shape, okay? I'm going to leave that hanging there. I'm not going to take that completely off, okay? Yeah, I think it's pretty good. It's pretty good. We're gonna put a new piece of burlap on there. Okay, good. Now we know our approach there. And put this aside. And tackle the seat. Let's start taking the seat apart. Before I take the fabric completely off, I'm going to just clean this up a little bit on the bottom. In other words, get the taps that I missed. Some of these on the front are nails. When you see a nail, don't take them out. They're usually holding something else on other than upholstery. In this case, they are. That's a nail, so put that back in there, okay? The way you usually can tell is that an upholstery tack will be rusted, or the saliva from the upholsterer will rust it, and the other tack, the nails that they use, they didn't put those in their mouths, so those will be silver. These were all darkened at least. See this one? Another nail. So you be aware of that. Be aware of those things. Oftentimes when I'm teaching classes, I come and I find somebody take a big long nail out of a frame of a chair that they thought was an upholstery tack. Sometimes it's hard to stop when you're trying to remove things, you don't know the difference. This one was a little tricky because they're mixed in one another. They're holding a piece of wood on the top, which is interesting. This isn't a solid piece of wood. Alrighty. Okay, we got everything except the nails that are holding, and let me just show you what they were holding. The nails are holding the framework on the top. Okay? So now you see I'm about to remove my identification, so I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a pencil and write front. You could just put an F if you want. Because I'm about to remove this. I don't want to lose my place. Let's just throw that over there for now. I have a feeling the seat's going to be in worse shape than the back is. The other thing we're going to do, just for the heck of it, just indicate your front on your padding. I'm not going to reuse this, I can tell you that, the top layer at least, but I might use, I might reuse the horsehair. I think I am going to reuse the horsehair that's underneath this. Okay, so let's take that out. Wow, look at the use on that. So that's going to end this segment. So what we're going to do next is restore this. That'll end this segment. On the next segment, we're going to start to take the burlap off and do a little restoration before we get to the upholstery. So see you next time.